The crop I've decided to understand are potatoes. They grow best in cool climates and are planted in the early spring, about 2 weeks after the last frost once the soil has warmed up. Potatoes usually take between 70 to 120 days to grow, depending on the variety. According to the World Population Review, the top three producers of potatoes in 2025 were China at 95.6 million tons, India at 56.2 million tons, and Ukraine at 20.9 million tons. So, starting with China and how their geographical location and climate make these places the ideal location for potatoes to be grown. So, China has a large range of climates, so many potato growing regions are accessible where the climate is cooler. They also have moderate rainfall, so there's enough moisture for crops without constant flooding. They have high fertile plateaus and valleys, which allows for good drainage and nutrient-rich soils. They also have multiple growing seasons, so some regions can actually harvest the potatoes more than once a year. India also has warm days and cooler nights. They also have a variety of climates, so their highlands and northern plains create conditions suitable despite India being overall warmer. They also have a short winter growing season, so potatoes can grow during India's mild winter, avoiding the extreme heat, and they have really fertile soil. Ukraine has a cool temperature climate, which is ideal for potatoes. They have reliable rainfall, so good moisture without the risk of tropical storms. They're located in what is called the potato belt of Europe, so similar latitude to the other major potato producers. They also have extremely fertile soil. The type of soil they have is actually known as some of the best soil on earth because it's deep, rich, and full of nutrients. So potato farmers have a lot of agriculture methods that they use to grow these crops, starting with crop rotation. So the potatoes are not actually planted in the same field every year. The farmers rotate potatoes with crops like wheat, corn, or beans. This is because it reduces soil diseases and pests. It prevents nutrient depletion and just improves the overall soil health. They also do something called fallow fields. Some fields are actually left unplanted for a season because it gives the soil time to reset and recover nutrients. It helps restore moisture levels and reduces disease buildup. Intercropping is also used. So it's when the potatoes are actually grown alongside something else, such as legumes or corns. First of all, it's just a better use of land, which makes sense. It also protects the soil from erosion, and some companion crops add nutrients back to the soil. So implementing these techniques actually positively impact the production. So with crop rotation, we see a better yield. So there's actually fewer diseases and pests, and there's healthier soil. More nutrient-dense potatoes come from it. The soil nutrients stay balanced. There's just a lower cost over time as well because you're not spending money on fertilizers and pesticides. Fallow fields, we see better yield in future seasons. The soil recovers nutrients and moisture. There's healthier soil structure, so it supports stronger plants. Short term, there is no crop that year, but it just improves the overall long run of the production. And with intercropping, again, we see a better yield overall. The land is used more efficiently. There's natural pest control, so it reduces any losses that come from pests and improves the quality of the potato. It also protects the soil, so reduces erosion and keeps moisture. There are quite a few pests that affect potatoes. The major ones are Colorado potato beetles, which are actually one of the most destructive potato pests, as it feeds on the leaves and can destroy entire plants. Aphids suck the sap from the plants, so they can also spread serious plant viruses. There's also the potato tuber moth. The larvae burrow into the leaves and tubers, damaging the potatoes in the field and in storage, among many other pests. There's also animal predators, so rodents like rats and field mice, they eat the stored and underground potatoes. And then in some regions, the wild boars or pigs may dig up the crop. There are quite a few things that farmers can do and are doing to manage the pest and pesticides that are needed to manage these pests. So first of all is monitoring and early detection. Farmers can regularly check their fields for insects before the infestation builds up, and then they only also treat their fields when the pest levels are high enough to cause damage because they don't want to be covering their crops in chemicals. Crop rotation is when the potatoes, again, are not planted in the same field every year, and this is helpful because it breaks the pest's life cycles and reduces the insects that live in that soil. Also, some potato varieties are bred to resist pests and diseases, so using these resistant varieties lowers the need for spraying chemicals. And then farmers also release natural predators like ladybugs to eat, for example, the aphids. These beneficial insects actually help control the pest population naturally. Potato farming uses tractors, planters, sprayers, irrigation systems, and harvesters. These machines make farming faster and more efficient, but they can harm the environment by using fuel, compacting soil, and contributing to runoff. So, most of the equipment listed use diesel fuels, while electricity is needed for irrigation systems and storing potatoes in coolers. So some farms are also starting to use renewable energy like solar or wind power, because these energy sources help farmers work more efficiently and produce more food, but they can also harm the environment. So potatoes are traded internationally to reach countries that don't grow enough. Large-scale farms sell potatoes to supermarkets and processing companies and export markets. And some potatoes do stay local or regional, but the majority enter a global network of transport, storage, and processing. And then some farmers also actually supply local processing plants and make potato products like Cavendish and PI. With the different exporters, so China's potato exports, especially frozen products, go to countries like the United States, Spain, Egypt, and Belgium. India's potatoes exports are smaller, but they're sent to nearby Asian and Middle Eastern markets. And then Ukraine's potato exports are mainly bought by Moldova. So potatoes are definitely considered a cash crop. They're grown mainly for sale, exportation, and processing rather than just personal use. Growing potatoes as a cash crop can have both negative and positive effects on local food security. On the positive side, it provides farmers with income, supports local jobs, and ensures some potatoes are available to local markets. However, focusing too much on selling potatoes for export can reduce the amount available for local communities. It also limits land for other crops and makes food access more vulnerable to global market changes. And then just to add on, a fair trade food item is produced and sold according to standards that ensure farmers and workers receive fair prices, they work in safe conditions, and use environmentally sustainable farming practices, which is really important. Fair trade products may also provide extra money that can be invested in local communities like schools or healthcare. Um, and then a non-fair trade food item, on the other hand, may be produced with lower labor standards, pay farmers very little, and uses practices that can harm the environment. Unlike fair trade products, non-fair trade items do not guarantee extra benefits for the peoples or communities who produce them, which is unfortunate because it is a lot of work.